Welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack. I'm your host, IDPHunter. Today, we're going to take a look at draft strategies, draft philosophies, draft tips, whatever you want to call them, things you can do in your drafts currently that can probably give you an edge. Now, I'm not here alone. I probably brought the biggest strategy tactician that I know, Mr. CK over here. Let me tell you about CK, okay? Not only is he a fellow brother over here at the Fantasy Six Pack, he's also on Fantasy Pros. He works over there. And he's also on the show with Scott Bogman as well. He's a writer, an analyst, a ranker, and something the audience may not know, he's a baseball ranker too, right? You do some analytics over there. Let me ask you, CK, what's the major differences that you found between football and baseball?
Ooh, that is a good question. I would say the major difference is just the length of the season. So baseball, you're talking, it starts at the end of March and goes till end of September for the fantasy season. So you have to exercise extreme amounts of patience. And when I'm writing an article for Fantasy Pros or people are hitting me up online and they want to drop their third round pick and it's the middle of April, I'm like, we're not even, if this was a football season, we're a game in. Do not give up on him. You've got, now that we're at July 4th, if you want to consider dropping someone that you picked, out between picks 75 and 100, that's fine. But before that, you got to wait. Whereas in football, there's 13, 14 now, I guess, regular season weeks. So you got to get off to a hot start. And so you got to make some tougher choices early on. But baseball, it's an exercise caution for a long time.
And I didn't know that about you, so thank you for sharing with me. That's refreshing. I'm a one sport guy. I kind of just sit here all season. Like you, I'm in my leagues. I'm trying to get ahead before the trade calculators ruin everything for me, but I sit here, I strategize. This is the best time to play. I don't know why leagues shut it down. I don't understand it.
No, absolutely not. This is the off season is where, I don't want to say the diehards, but the diehards can take advantage of, not that I'm trying to take advantage of people. I want everybody to have fun playing these leagues, but if you're putting in the work, this is the time to crank it up in the off season.
I had Matthew Montgomery on from the football guys, and I guess he called me a shark. And I'm like, whoa, I'm offended by that. We're not trade sharks. We're just active owners. I can make a trade. You can make a trade. We both could succeed. It doesn't – very common misconception that if you get better, I have to get worse. Not so, not true, especially with these more balanced exotic leagues we play in. Again, so excited to have you on. You know my work. I know your work. Over here at the Six Pack, we got award-winning rankings. What are y'all, number 3 in baseball, I believe, the number 3 ranked site?
I believe we're number 3 in baseball and we're top 5 in football at Fantasy Six Pack. And
Joe Bond specifically is number 3 ranker in Fantasy Pros right now. And I was number 4 for IDP. So we're just killing it all around with the hat tricks. We got fantasy hockey, golf. We got all kinds of stuff. Maybe I do need a second sport to get into.
I think it's the best deal on the internet for fantasy. If you're into fantasy, I think Fantasy Six Packs deal, just because if you want to make you can make your money back in no time just listening to the DFS guys. I am not a DFS guy, but those guys are killing it every night. So I think Fantasy Six Pack is a great deal for people.
One of the sponsors that I have, it's called the IDP Center. And what they do over there is they have these trade calculators. Because I don't know about you, IDP value, it's not the same as offense. We're playing PPR, we're playing half point, we're playing stuff like that. But over at the IDP Center, they have great resources. They have over 400 managers. They have these trade calculators, and it's maddening to me, CK. I go on a trade calculator site, TJ Watt is worth Justin Jefferson. And you're laughing already, because then I go to another one, and TJ Watt's worth the Devin Singletary. Like, what gives? You know what I mean? So at least when I'm over on sites like this, over at the IDP Center, I can kind of gauge value. I can kind of gauge where players are at. They have free leagues. They have balanced leagues. They have money leagues. It's all over, and it's off of Discord, off of Reddit. So, yeah, I get a lot of fans out of there. They're posting our videos every day. We got best ball drafts. We have, and some rankings, some articles I've done myself. So for anybody interested in IDP, please check out the idpcenter.com.
Yeah.
So strategies for me in IDP, they're all over the place. Really, it just depends. So I had 3 examples this podcast. I was going to do like IDP draft, a balanced draft, and maybe like a mixed league kind of thing. What says you? Do you want to kick it off to offense first?
Sure.
What position are you going to go with?
Let's start with quarterback. I don't know if it's the
Leader.
most important fantasy position unless you're in a super flex league, but it's the most important NFL position. And my theory and draft strategy when it comes to quarterbacks is I like to target quarterbacks where a bad defense. So you're talking IDP here because quarterbacks with a bad defense are just on the field so much more than a typical quarterback. So yes, drafting quarterback early can work. Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts finished 1 and 2 last year. They were each top 5 by ADP. Joe Burrow fell to 25. Yes, that was injury related. But thinking about late quarterbacks who can work, did you know that Jared Goff finished top 7th last year? Baker Mayfield was 10th. And Sam Howell, who looked terrible at times last year, finished 12th in quarterback scoring last season. And you're thinking, wait, how? Well, the Commanders, who was where Sam Howell was last year, allowed 60 more points than any other defense. So he was on the field so often in a shootout that he had to work his way back. And then, Russell Wilson, I think anybody you're going to talk to would thought it was a terrible year for Russ Wilson last year. He was QB 14 because Denver's defense was so bad that he had to keep throwing the ball. So if you're taking it to this year, I think about who can I target? Well, it's a little early, but Kyler Murray, Arizona had the 2nd worst defense last year. Yeah, they brought in Mac Wilson, Sean Murphy Bunting, Bilal Nichols. I don't know about you, but none of them moved the needle for me. So I still think it's going to be one of the worst defenses again. And then a little later, I like Bryce Young. I know it's unpopular. He was terrible as a rookie. He finished, I think, 23rd at quarterbacks, but I think there's 2 pretty good reasons for his struggles. They had a terrible O-line play, 5th worst per PFF. Now, they did add Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis to the O-line, so I think he'll be better. And their last offense was so poorly designed for his skill set. Now, Dave Canales is the new head coach there. This is the man who rejuvenated Geno Smith's career. Baker Mayfield, I just talked about it, finished top 10 last year. He was an afterthought. You may remember that. It's hard to remember, but the year before, Baker Mayfield got cut by the Panthers and ended up in Los Angeles. He was that bad. Then the team adds weapons in Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, JT Sanders. It's going to be a bad defense, too. They have a terrible secondary. So I like Bryce Young late, too. I think he's got a very high upside.
Any young quarterback, especially like a super flex, I'm just gobbling them up. A lot of my friends play 3, 4. I'll play 5 QBs. Just give them to me. You know what's interesting? I like what you said here. Target QBs on a bad defense. I'll kind of invert that a little bit. I remember over at the Six Pack, we were trying to figure out who's going to write the NFC South article or be on that show. I'm like, give me that. Most people like, oh, the NFC South has a bad offense. Well, guess what? Let me invert what you just said. Bad offenses mean great defenses. Sign me up for that. I'll take that all day long. Turnovers, guys on the field, snap opportunity. I'll eat that all day long in IDP. So context matters,
Absolutely. All the time in fantasy football, it has to matter. Another one I just want to mention is Jaden Daniels. I think there's a chance that Jaden Daniels starts the year on the bench. I think they might start the year with Marcus Mariota. I don't think it'll last, but I just said Washington's defense was bad enough that Sam Howell finished QB 12 last year. Yes, they did add Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin, but look at these cornerbacks, dude. Emmanuel Forbes, Benjamin St-Juste, Michael Davis, and Noah Igbenogany. The lowest of those cornerbacks quarterback rating against was 95. And new offensive coordinator in Washington is Cliff Kingsbury. That is a fantasy quarterback kingmaker. Kyler Murray's worst finish with Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator was 18th, and that was in 11 games. Otherwise, 8th, 3rd, and 10th. I think Jaden Daniels has the perfect skill set to succeed in Kingsbury's offense. And while I don't want to draft him as, if you're playing a 1 quarterback league, I don't really want to take him as somebody I have to start week 1 because I don't think it's going to happen. But I have been trying to take him in every best ball I do because when he gets on the field, I think the upside is through the roof for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, heck yeah. Oh, my God. And then, again, these quarterbacks are going to learn on the field. You said best ball. So, I mean, if he's one of my – it's not like you have to start him and rely on him. If he's a higher scorer and you got a couple quarterbacks, then you're all set. Man, you brought the lightning with that one. I kind of like that one for you. I like all them quarterbacks you mentioned. Go young, go whatever. Context matters. I will say this in IDP, just to counter that back, of course, you're looking at your roster, you're looking at whatever scoring. You got to know your scoring. IDP is one of those places, it's still the Wild West. We have, for the audience on Spotify that can't see my screen, and the audience on YouTube, they know I got a jungle background. That's what IDP is. It's a wild jungle. It's a Wild West. It's whatever. I'm about to pull up some stuff on the screen, and I'll kind of walk you through it for the people on Spotify that can't see. But knowing your scoring matters. There's a lot of exotic, ridiculous IDPs out there. I did a video, and I don't want to kind of graze that. I'll just kind of go over a little bit of what I mean by scoring. Context matters. So you got to know what kind of scoring format you're in. Traditionally, when I am drafting, I'm looking for a balanced build. Depending where I'm at, it may be 2 linebackers, 2 defensive linemen. It may be 2 defensive linemen, linebacker. It all depends which way I'm going to go. But I like to have an even keel team that keeps me in the neck of things. Generally, in like a tackle savvy league, I'll probably take 3 linebackers in the first round, two defensive linemen. If I'm in a sack heavy league, I will go the opposite. I'll do 3 defensive linemen, 2 tackles. But you got to know, because if you don't know the scoring or how to read that, you're going to get lapped. And I'm going to tell you, CK, I don't know your background. I know you work with Scott Bogman, who's a genius at this kind of stuff. But the context matters. The way I kind of break down if I'm in a sack heavy, a tackle heavy, or even a balanced heavy, a quick snafu here, class. I'm looking at the sacks to the tackle ratio. Okay. If the tackles, if I get 3 points a tackle to 1 sack, so if my ratio is 3-1 or less, or 2-1, or even 1-1, I've seen leagues like that. That's a very tackle favored league. I'm going to look for positional value of guys that are linebackers, strong safeties that are going to be in the center of the field to make plays. Okay. Even if it's 4-1 and it's more balanced, 4-1 is considered more of a balanced type of league. I still may favor a linebacker a little bit because it's easier to gauge tackles historically. Every 3 years or 4 years, you'll see the same guys in the top 100. You don't see that with sacks. Sacks are almost like trying to moneyball your team based on touchdowns, right, on offense. Yep. It really doesn't happen. And then last but not least, these are fun best ball style leagues. When you're in a sack heavy league, that's when it is 6-1 ratio or greater, when you're getting that 6 points for the sack versus the 1 point tackle. So if it's 6-1 or greater, that's when I consider it sack heavy. Now, here's where it gets a little bit even crazier. When you look at this isn't your standard generic fantasy pro scoring. This is all over the place. You got to be able to read what you're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to start. We need to find a ratio here, right? I'm going to look at solo tackles. Solo tackles is 1.25. So that's what you're getting for the tackle. Let me go up to the sacks because there's a whole lot of holy heck going on here, right? Okay, get 5 points a sack, right? The average fan would be like, oh, I'm in a 5-1 league. No, you're not. Let's keep reading. What happens when you get sacked? You hit the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. So this league, you get 5 plus the 2 for the QB hit. What happens when the quarterback gets hit? 3 points tackle for loss. That's a game changer, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm getting 10 points per tackle, per sack, to that 1 point, whatever the tackle. Now, it doesn't end there. See this sack yards? This is probably the most trickiest category yet. See how it says 0.1 per yard? That's a hard one to gauge. A lot of expert managers will play with this. I will tell you, if you were to Google the history of the sack, which I think has been a stat since 1982, the average sack is 6.5 yards per play you lose. So whenever I see that, a 0.1, that's generous. I'm just adding an extra point, a 0.6 to the scoring. So let's do the math real quick. And I'm no mathematician, CK, but 5 plus the 2 for the quarterback. I do this every league. This is what's funny. I'm an old man, right? 5 plus 2 plus the tackles for loss, 10. So now I'm getting 10.6 You're laughing at me, I know. And I'm going to divide that by the 1.25. Every league I do this. I'm just old school like that. I'm old school. When you divide that, add that up, it comes to 8.4 points per sack per tackle. So I did all that fast math in my head. I did all this. I'm looking at it. Why does that matter? I know this league here, defensive linemen should be going off the board early. On top of that, my priority 1 is defensive lineman. My priority 2, if I can't get one, maybe a hybrid, like a linebacker who plays edge. A 3-4 edge linebacker and a 4-3 defensive end. They're in the same universe. I'm not losing any points. But ideally, when I see this, and I'll give you an example, when I see this, I'm trying to find somewhere that I know I can get that balanced, like I said in the beginning. I'm trying to see where I'm at on the draft board and where I feel comfortable. I will tell you right now, I feel okay with the top 7 or 8 defensive linemen in every draft. I feel okay with that. I feel okay because I know that one of those guys is going to fall to me. Okay. And maybe I can come back around and get a top 5 type of linebacker, but I got to hold my breath and I got to pull this off right. So let me just show you what I'm looking at. Just to give you guys a great starter buildup. And this is free of charge, courtesy of the Fancy Six Pack. Okay. This is just a basic format when I see that scoring. I'm in these sack heavy leagues. And again, the first 7, I'm more than okay with. First 7 or 8, I'm okay with. The batting order may change based on what kind of leagues you're in, but generally you'll see a Watt, Parsons, or Crosby go 1, 2, 3. That's what you'll see. I'm okay with Myles Garrett as my 4. He just had that great season. Okay. Everybody still loves a Nick Bosa. Everybody loves Hutchinson. Everybody loves Hunter. And for whatever reason, Josh Allen is right up there with these guys. He's coming off a great season, and he's usually your DL8. So 1 through 8, I'm okay with. And regardless of the format, you guys already know, Olakun and Roquan Smith, the top linebackers, they're not going to escape the first round. I don't care what the format is, right? So typically in drafts, I hold my breath, and I hope I can get a top 10 pick. Out of a 12-team league, I got a 10/12 of a chance, right? I'm good, right? I was studying the board, CK, and I keep moving up Will Anderson, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Will Anderson, 1.10, 1.11, I'm okay with that. So if you're a believer in Will Anderson, I can go through my drafts knowing this scoring, and I can get one of these top 9 DLs right now. And then with my snake pick coming back around, I'm almost guaranteed a top 5 linebacker, ain't I?
Should be, absolutely.
Between Olakun Smith, Bolton, Oaki. So I chose Fred Warner, and that's kind of the point I want to drive home. Fred Warner in 1, 2, 3 scoring and Big 3 scoring and Fantasy Pros, he's a top 4 or 5 producer. And the reason he's a special player because not only does he get tackles, he gets those impact plays. Regardless of your format, he's getting it. He's getting moved around. Most rankers have him as a 4 or a 5. He'll fall usually in places. So as my strategy in these kind of leagues, I'm looking for a top DL first, go linebacker. If I do it the other way around, it's not going to work. A good startup, a Will Anderson type, a Josh Allen type, and a Fred Warner right there. Bobby O's another one. I can get that in these kind of formats and then just work your team, go all the way around. But it's a great strategy. And the reason I say should be, I mean, you're correct, CJ, should be. What if it doesn't fall this way? Well, even better. That means the guys I have highly better ranked are going to fall to me. But that's kind of why I look at it like that. That's kind of why I look at this and I say, hey, the context matters. Make sure that you are looking at your league scoring because you can do that. Now, if it was a tackle heavy, I would do the opposite. I would take the top 10 linebackers, come back around on that snake, hold my breath, and hope I can get like a top 7, top 8, depending how you feel about Will Anderson, top 9 DL. If I can get a build like that and just build my team and keep going like that, you're going to be in most leagues.
Yeah, when it comes to IDP, I don't think that there's a better tip than to just really know your league scoring because it can change. Like you said, half PPR, it can change values slightly, but IDP scoring can drastically change the way that players are valued. And I know when I don't do as many as you do, obviously, Steve, but the ones that I do, I make sure that I know the players. At least I know the scoring so that I know the players that benefit from that or lose value from it, because it's so important, and you can take advantage of people that just kind of, talking about going off of just traditional scoring. You can take advantage of some of that. So
yeah, I will tell you though, my strategy is trying to get one of those top 8 DLs and maybe a top 5 linebacker, or vice versa, flip it around depending where I'm at. Those builds I've been getting are pretty good, and then later rounds you got to know who to get. But those teams that I've been building, I've been pretty happy about this offseason.
That's awesome, man. Let's talk some running backs, huh?
All right, let's do it.
So it's not that long ago that running back committee was a 4-letter word in fantasy. You did not say it. You had to avoid the committees. It was all about the touches. We had LT, Larry Johnson. They were getting 400 plus touches a year, 450. Yeah. It doesn't happen. Christian McCaffrey led the way last year. He had 339. Yes, that's a lot, but this is not the days of the 400 touch back. There were 6 backs who had 300 touches last year. That's it. Christian McCaffrey, Rashad White, which I was a little surprised at, Travis Etienne, who they say they want to get off the field, but when you're the best running back on the team and they want to run the ball all the time, they're not taking him off the field. Joe Mixon, not a new team, but I still feel very confident he's going to get the ball early and often with Houston. Derrick Henry and Tony Pollard. Those were the only 6 backs who took even 300 touches last season. So the idea of getting a bell cow back is basically a farce, especially outside of the first 2 rounds. You're just not going to get it anymore. So don't be afraid of a committee, because in today's modern NFL, you can have multiple running backs carry high-end value in these formats. So just to pick a couple of situations from this year, let's look at Pittsburgh, right? Arthur Smith comes in. What does he love to do? He loves to run the ball. If you're a Kyle Pitts owner, a Drake London owner from last year, you were very irritated because Pittsburgh or Atlanta was running the ball constantly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, he comes to Pittsburgh. They draft 2 offensive linemen in their first 2 picks and a 4th. I think in the round 3, they drafted another one. They are going to want to run the ball early and often. He's not going to bring in, just because he brought in Russell Wilson, it's not to carry this team with his right arm. It's, we're going to run the ball with Najee Harris. We're going to run the ball with Jaylen Warren. Najee took 284 touches last year, which in half PPR, he finished 20th. Warren got 210 touches last year, half PPR, he finished 25th. I think they probably both get more touches. I don't see how they're going to get it less. It seems likely that they get more touches, and I think they can both finish as top 24 RBs. Detroit, right? Last year, that was the prototype for 2 running backs that can be valuable. As they had one of the most efficient offenses in the league. David Montgomery got 235 touches last year. Now, if it's a PPR league, he only got 16 catches, but he took 219 carries. So in half PPR, though, still finished as a running back 13. And now Jahmyr Gibbs, everyone loves Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Well, he got 234 touches, so 1 less than Montgomery, but 54 of them were catches, so he finished 10th in half PPR. That is 2 top 13 running backs on the same team in half PPR. David Montgomery has fallen in ADP because people think that Jahmyr Gibbs is just going to get all the carries. It's not going to happen. David Montgomery is going to get a ton of work in this offense because he's going to get the majority of the catches or the rushes. I like Seattle's situation. I know people are scared off by the Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. Well, they have a new head coach in Mike McDaniel, who comes from Baltimore, where they led the league in carries. Now, part of that is that they had Lamar Jackson. Yes, we want to talk about, they brought in a new offensive coordinator in Seattle and Ryan Grubb. He's coming in from coaching the Washington Huskies to the national championship the playoff with Michael Penix, and everybody talked about the ground or the passing attack, right? Michael Penix threw the ball to Roma Dunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk. They also run the ball. They had a 1,200-yard rusher last year. They averaged 28 carries a game at Washington. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet are going to get carries. Yes, Kenneth Walker dominated touches last year. He had 248 of them to Zach Charbonnet's 141. But in the last 2 games, Zach Charbonnet was on the field more. And the new regime has no ties to Kenneth Walker. So if I get Zach Charbonnet late in the draft, there's a chance that this is much closer to a 50-50 split than we saw. Mike McDaniel has no reason to just say, Kenneth Walker, you're the guy, and we're just going to hand you touches. And then the last one is Washington, right? They brought in Austin Eckler this offseason. They already had Brian Robinson. We're 2 years removed from Austin Eckler being a top 5 back. And he fits Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. Great. Yes, they're not going to want to run the ball, but he's going to catch a lot of passes. I think this is a situation similar to Detroit, where I think Robinson will get the majority of the carries, but I think Eckler is going to carry value too, because I think he's going to get a lot of catches in this. All of those backs on those 4 situations I talked about, there are weeks that you're going to want to play them. It's not just a flex, as an RB2 or higher. So running back committees, don't be afraid. They can be really valuable at this point, especially the second back in a lot of cases, because they seem to fall and they're undervalued and they carry a lot of weight at the end.
Yeah. And, we've been doing this for a while now. The days of the stud running backs are probably out the window. Like you said, wide receivers first. There's leagues that I draft startups, and I don't really like it because I'm loaded at wide receiver, and I just got to wait for those running backs to hop. But then the season happens, and I'm out of dynasty mode. The season happens. How often than not do these running backs go down, and it's the backup, the third string, or whatever. You can play waiver wire on your second running back. I don't know if I do it for both running backs, but maybe have a good running back one, have a strong guy, and then have that other one kind of rotate them out. But you can committee that thing.
It's the hero RB strategy, right? You get one that you feel confident in, and then you just plug and play that second one every week. And like you said, if you're loaded at receiver, play 3 receivers in a flex, right? Whatever, however you want to do it. And receivers tend to carry their value longer in dynasty leagues. So yeah, I like to have a lot of Jonathan Taylor on a lot of my dynasty leagues because I just still believe a lot, but I don't usually have a whole lot of other running backs other than that. I have Jonathan Taylor, and then I have a lot of Aaron Jones, for example, who he's getting a little older, but I feel pretty confident Aaron Jones is going to get the ball. Those are the type of running backs I want. Just somebody. And for 1 year, maybe next year, Aaron Jones doesn't get the ball all that much, but I can feel confident that I can fill in running back, at least one of them, because there's going to be situations open up
that you can get the run on them. Running backs, you can volume, kind of like linebacker in IDP. Do you need an elite linebacker? And that's a good transition for me too. Do you need an elite linebacker? Probably not. I can find a Nate Landman off waivers any given week. You know what I mean? So, so I guess we should move on to my category, which I would say any given week when you're looking at, combo leagues, particularly. I know I showed the IDP league, the last one. I want to do a combo. I want to kind of compare offense with defense. To me, there's no question. You got to get your offense. You got to get your players first. Wait on IDP as long as you can, as long as you feel comfortable. Now, I know not everybody has the same skill sets, okay? I get it. But in combo leagues, you can look at the rosters, for crying out loud. You look at the rosters and you can see the teams that went defense early, they're strapped and they're hard pressed for those wide receivers and running backs. When the season comes, and depending on how big league size you have, it's always the defensive players that break out. There's always some guy that you can get off waivers. Last year, it was Robert Spillane. He broke out everywhere, and he's a prime example why waiting. In this particular draft that I pulled up, Robert Spillane went super late. He went all the way in, I think it was the 13th round or something. Yeah, he went super late here. Like, what the heck, are we doing? But it's a simple fact of opportunity. Is opportunity the key? And the answer is yes. Just like these running backs, they're a dime a dozen. There are so many guys late that you can get versus like proven talent. Like, no way am I passing up a Puka or, a Breece Hall. There's no way you should be doing that, regardless of the format. Now, I know somebody's going to argue with me, and they're going to be like, well, wait, Steve, what if the scoring indicates it? I still don't care about IDP. Why? Because everything's predicated on what the offense, what the scheme's going to do. Defense is reactive, okay? And I could find players all throughout, and this is a great example I'm about to say. Let's go back to Robert Spillane real quick. Robert Spillane was a dynasty deal last year. Robert Spillane had 26.8 pressures. Okay, he was rated 87.1 on PFF. He had a rushing grade of 26.8 pass rushers. He's everything the cat's meow, right? The guy was ranked third amongst running backs last year, and you could have got him off of waivers. This year, he's still good. He's going as LB27. It makes no sense, right? And he's not the only one. I kind of looked through this draft, CK. This is why I pulled it up, because this was supposed to be like a big top-heavy draft, and it was on a different network. I just wanted to see what other people were thinking. And I went through, these guys went all the way into the 48th round, dude. And Spillane went, what, round 13, right? In a mixed league. And not only that, Spillane is just one of the examples of guys that you can do if you wait. Why would I bother? There's guys like KJ Britt. There's guys like Tyrell Dodson. These are 3 linebackers on the cheap that weren't even drafted in this league. That's what's crazy. Getting an offensive player in round 7 and waiting on a defensive player is a huge advantage, especially when you know you can fill your depth chart in your roster later on. It's just one of the many examples. And then the last point, and I'll let it go. There are constant examples when that top pick, Azera Franklin, who's an LB4 right now ranked, he's getting outplayed by the other linebacker, EJ Speed. So he's a top 20. So you can easily, if you just know a little bit of how to map it out, stay away from early picks IDP. I get it if you want maybe one, spoil yourself with a Parsons or a Watt. People do that. But there's no point in actually doing that, especially when I showed you right now. There's 3 linebackers right now that have the starting opportunity, much like your running back question, that are going to eat.
So while you were talking, I looked up. I've done one startup draft this offseason that was combo IDP and regular. And it's with guys who know what they're doing, right? And I got Robert Spillane in the 17th round. And then Tyrell Dodson, another player you mentioned, a big fan of, I had him in the 33rd round. So we think alike. And my first IDP player in that draft was round 11. I got Aziz Al-Shaair. So,
oh my goodness. Now, you know what's funny? On another pod, like as far as dynasty bargains go, or like LBs that are like, he's probably going as like an LB 11 or 12, and he's probably more likely than not to bump some of those guys in the top 10. I don't know if it's his name or people don't recognize Houston, too much, but he's one of those players that I target. So the same names you just mentioned are on my target list as well.
See, it's all about snap count with defense, man. And you can really take advantage of it. Not that I do love Robert Spillane. I think he is one of the biggest steals if you're in an IDP league right now. And you nailed that. Let's talk some receivers.
Okay.
I am going to talk about just rookie receivers, and don't be afraid of them again. There were 5 rookies that finished in the top 30 last season. They are Puka Nacua, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice, who has some off-field stuff going on right now, and Zay Flowers. Now, there are so many that just missed this too. Tank Dell would have gotten there if he didn't. I think he broke his leg. He would have gotten there. He's very tiny. That could happen anytime. Josh Downs was awesome as a rookie. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Dontavian Wicks was a 5th-round pick who looked like arguably the Packers' best receiver down the stretch last season. And then even Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas with New England was great. And JSN. So that's 10, 11, 12 receivers that you probably were willing to play at certain times. Now, if you drafted Quentin Johnston or Jalen Hyatt earlier, you're probably not feeling it. And you're telling me, CK, you're nuts. Those guys were god-awful. And as a guy who had a lot of Jalen Hyatt, I feel that. I had dealt with it too. It did not work. Daniel Jones got hurt. It did not work.
Yeah.
But I went back to check some ADP last year among receivers. The highest rookie taken among receivers was Jordan Addison, went 37th among wide receivers. So if you get in your draft room this year and you start to see rookie receivers going in probably 5 of them before wide receiver 37, there'll probably be 5 rookies gone in the top 35 receivers. Don't be afraid of it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a different breed with Arizona. He's going to go in the top probably 2 rounds of your fantasy draft, even in a redraft. Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Xavier Worthy, they will go earlier than that. But so much of rookie success is tied to a target share. And here's the thing. Marvin Harrison Jr., if I had to be a betting man, I would say he will lead the Cardinals in targets. Malik Neighbors, I am 100% confident, barring an injury, he will lead the Giants in targets. I cannot say that about Roma Dunze because of Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, so I probably will not have Roma Dunze. There's a decent chance Xavier Worthy leads that team in targets beyond Travis Kelce. Ladd McConkey, I think, very likely leads the Chargers in targets. I don't see anybody there that's more than likely to do it. And then there's some other ones who I didn't even mention going in that top 35 who I think can lead their team in targets, who I like to target. Keon Coleman with the Bills. I have no doubt that he can lead that team in targets as a rookie. And then
Josh Allen
somebody,
wanted him.
yeah, right. Josh Allen wanted him. And then somebody on the Patriots has to catch the ball. I don't know who it's going to be, but Jalen Polk, and I still believe I will take a shot, even in a redraft league, especially in a best ball, on Javon Baker late. Because someone has to lead that team in targets. Could it be Pop Douglas again? Sure, but he's operating within 5 to 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I think that it's possible that we see 6 or 7 rookies lead their team in targets. And if they do that, they're going to be valuable again for fantasy. So don't be afraid that just because these guys seem like they're pushed up the ADP this year, it's a really good group again. And I'm perfectly fine taking a lot of those guys where they're going.
Let me ask you this, because sometimes I struggle at where I'm going to put the rookie versus the veteran. Mm-hmm. When do you take Marvin Harrison off the board? Like, maybe not necessarily the rank or the player, but like in what tier? Like, would you take him over, I don't know, Mike Evans, or like where would you, Devin Smith? Where would you, where's the breaking point? I guess I should say.
So I could have put my tiers up, but I believe I have my top tier is CD, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jamar Chase. That is my tier 1. And then tier 2 is Tyreek, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is in that tier for me.
Oh, wow. You got him that high. Okay.
So I will take him as early. I have taken him at the back of the second round in a best ball. In redraft, I would love to. I'll be perfectly fine taking him in a third round in a redraft league.
Gotcha. Speaking of rookies too, CK, the Pro Football Rookie Analytics, they're doing a special right now. For the rookie content, you save 20%. It's the early bird special, right? They have both offense and they have IDP over there. It's a really good manual, but they actually have a promo code right now. If you type in IDPHunter, you save an additional 25%. I mean, how I know that's dirt.
I just took a picture of it so I don't forget to do it. I will do that when we're done.
Excellent.
I just had to take a picture of that.
But yeah, that's it right there. Like I said, you can get both of them right now. I mean, sweet deal right there. And, they do a lot of these analytics based on PFF. And like some of the best stuff over there, PFF is my go-to, when I'm looking at IDPs. Right. But there's not a lot of content on rookie analytics, not just the combine, but go a little bit beyond. But yeah, check out Pro Football Rookie Analytics. And like I said, it doesn't hurt to try to get that edge in your competition, because come Labor Day weekend, all this stuff's going to be out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just so good to kind of get ahead. I love playing in leagues right now. I love playing in these leagues where, it's the Wild West. It's who's going to come down to who's been researching and who's been active.
Now's the time to be active and get to take advantage of the players that aren't. This is the time to do it.
Heck yeah. I have one more talking point as far as draft strategies go, and I feel a little sleazy putting this one up here because this is the most basic thing. You hear me say it all the time. I don't have a great slide to show or a website analytics. It's just basically me lecturing. If my kids were awake right now, they'd be like, Dad's out there lecturing again. Oh, great. And it's just the most common thing to me. Wait on defensive backs. But yet every draft you'll see it. Somebody thinks they're smarter than you. They're going to take a Derwin James. And okay, cool. But a lot of times you can't recover from that because the point difference is so bad. It's like taking an RB2 before taking your wide receiver 1. It just doesn't make sense when you do that. Again, let's just break this down. And yes, this is a lecture, CK. I'm sorry to get to be a part of this. Defensive back is such a fluky position. Defense is reactive anyway. So the quarterback actually has to target it. And don't get me started on cornerbacks. There's games where those guys are on an island. It's better to have the second quarterback or cornerback, or even the slot guy instead of the top cornerback. I'm not even going to go there. I'm just talking about basic safeties or defensive back position. But yeah, that whole side of the ball is predicated on what the offense is going to do and who they're going to throw. Not to mention those guys get more injured than any other position. And it's a volatile position. If you were to pull the top 10 each year historically, and I was going to do that on this pod, but I didn't want to go too long, it changes every year. Unlike linebacker, you kind of know who those guys are. Unlike defensive linemen, what I say, there's 8 guys that I target. You know who the studs are there. Any given year, it changes. I'm going to say Budda Baker is the only repeater in the last 10 years. It's such a fluky position to change. Just to give a little data, CK, I pulled some data. I went back to 2022 because I just wanted to see how that plays out. So when I went to 2022, I pulled up just a random year, and I found the DB 10 in 2022 produced 177.3 points. Okay. And then I pulled the LB 10 and he produced 225 points. So again, it's a quick litmus test, a quick case study. If I'm in a draft board, I'm taking DBs over linebackers, I'm losing on all of those points, man. I'm losing on 50 points a season, which trickulates to a couple points a game. You're screwing yourself. It's like it's like not paying your taxes, man. Do the time, pay your taxes, do your homework. I will venture to say that defensive backs is more of a dart throw position, if anything. At cornerbacks, even worse. Why are you targeting those guys when most of our leagues, unlike the first scoring format that I showed in the beginning, most of our leagues favor the tackle? A defensive back, yeah, sure. If you want to go ahead and try to get a top guy because you don't know, that's fine, but you better be a master drafter. You better know what your leagues are going to do because you're already hurting yourself and you're already recovering. And there's thousands of names. I did a report or an article last year. It was like kind of like a report. A dozen defensive backs I can name off that you can get in the last round off waivers. And that was last year. Watch and see how many new players, new faces rotate in. It's just not worth it. The leagues we play in, it's not worth it to take those guys early, especially when there's more talented, more positions, or positions that have more points attached to it. So that's my beef on defensive backs. I'm not doing it, but yet every draft I'm in, somebody's going to do it, and they're going to think they're smart.
So I checked my one draft I did, the combined one this offseason. I waited till round 20, and I walked out with round 20 Josh Metellus, round 21 Kyle Duggar, round 26 Reed Blankenship. Not corners, not cornerbacks, players that play close to line of scrimmage. They're also like secondary players in name only. Like all of those players essentially play as a fourth linebacker. That's just what I do when it comes to attacking the secondary. And yeah, you wait. I'd love to have Xavier McKinney. I'm a Packers fan. I think he's going to be great with the Packers, but I won't pay up in fantasy because he's just not that much more valuable than if you wait on it. And so, yeah, man, they're fun to watch on the field. I get it, but in IDP, they're just not as valuable in the way that we play it. So maybe someday we'll do like IDP, like DB Superflex or something. We'll have to start more of them, and then it'll boost their values up or something.
I just put this on the Football Guys podcast when we were talking, and I'll just add it for substance because you went there. You went there. Brees, Reed Blankenship, who led the Eagles in total tackles. He's probably DB 20, and he's forgotten about. There's a guy, Amani Hooker. Okay. Mm-hmm. He's on the Titans. They don't know who the green dot's going to be this year because they're not giving it to Kenneth Murray. He volunteered for it. Okay. That's even before that, he was profiled as a top tackler, right? This guy last year, he got hurt the last 4 games, so people forget this, okay? Amani Hooker, who's not even being drafted places right now, right? This guy produced 6.8 tackles a game, which came out to 85 tackles, 69 solos. That 69 solos is impressive, right? 6.8 tackles a game on a full body of work, a full season. He would have had 111 tackles. That would have put him as DB 10. Okay, right next to guys like Daxton Hill and all these other guys. So what I'm saying is there's DB1s likely. If there's any position that you can hit on off of waivers in the deepest leagues that could potentially be its one, is a defensive back or at least a streaming position. You can get those guys are a dime a dozen, and that just goes into your point.
Sir, let's talk tight ends for my last point here. And this one's a little obvious, but go early or go really late on upside. I will avoid the middle tier of tight end like the plague. I do not touch the middle tier. So last season's top 5 picks in ADP by tight end were Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle, and Darren Waller. Currently, this season's top 5, Sam Laporta has moved up to the top tight end off the board in ADP. He is going at he was 17th last year. Excuse me. He was 17th last year among tight ends. Kelce is still in the top 5. He now goes second at ADP. Trey McBride, who was going 32nd among tight ends last year, is now third in ADP. Mark Andrews still in the top 5, and Dalton Kincaid, who was just outside the top 10 last year, goes 5th. So our current top 5 in ADP: Laporta, Kelsey, McBride, Andrews, and Kincaid. So we got to think about what happened that some of these guys dropped out. Well, Hawkinson was great. He's just dealing with the injury. I won't touch that because I hate drafting injured players. George Kittle, there's just so many mouths to feed there. And then Darren Waller is obviously gone. But then what happened to make Laporta, McBride, and Kincaid jump up into that top 5? Well, they have 2 things in common that I could figure out here. Draft pedigree, right? Each of those players is a top 2 round pick. The Laporta was a 2nd round pick by the Lions. McBride was a 2nd round pick by the Cardinals, and Kincaid a 2nd round pick by the Bills. They're on teams that want to throw the ball. And so we have to try to figure out, who does that leave for this season? Well, I got 2 tight ends, I think, that fit that pedigree, who could make that jump if you're going to wait on tight end. One is Luke Musgrave. He's going as the tight end to 18 right now for a Packers team that wants to throw the ball. Yes, they have a billion options to throw the ball to right now. There are 4 or 5 receivers. There's 2 tight ends. Him and tight end Tucker Kraft had nearly identical numbers. But when both of them were healthy, Musgrave missed 6 games with, I think it was like a kidney injury. I don't remember exactly, but he missed some time. But there was no denying that Musgrave was the preferred tight end option. And if Jordan Love's going to start throwing the ball to the tight end a little more, I think we could see Tucker Kraft finish the top 10 tight end fairly easily. And then the other one is Ben Sinnott, who he was the 2nd tight end off the board in this last draft. Brock Bowers goes pretty early in drafts, and I'll push Brock Bowers up. I love Brock Bowers. But Ben Sinnott went 2nd in the draft behind Bowers. He went early in the 2nd round to the Commanders. He's going as tight end 27 right now in fantasy drafts. His tight end competition for snaps in Washington is the ghost of Zach Ertz, who's been hurt for a while, and John Bates. There's no reason to think that Ben Sinnott won't get on the field early here. Now, my favorite Commanders pass catcher to target is Terry McLaurin. I think he's an absolute steal at his current value. I will push that up a lot. But who's to say that Sinnott can't finish 2nd on this team in targets? Why is that? Is that completely out of the realm of possibilities? Jahan Dotson has shown nothing in 3 seasons, or I think maybe 2 seasons. Luke McCaffrey's a rookie. Jamison Crowder coming back. I think Ben Sinnott, I don't want to throw the Sam Laporta thing on him and expect him to get picked 1st overall, because I don't think he'll do that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he didn't finish 2nd on the Commanders in targets as a rookie. That is well within the realm of possibility. It's somebody who I can get in literally the last round of my draft all day, every day. If I'm going to wait on tight end, I will take that shot.
You know what you just made me think of? I got a bonus strategy here, but it correlates to your tight end. Is it just me? I remember when we first started playing, I've been playing a minute here. I've been playing IDP since 2004, so you know I'm a degenerate, right?
That's awesome.
But I know, it's crazy. It's 20 years, man. I don't feel that old, but
what site did you use back then?
Yeah, Yahoo. That was, I guess that was the boom. Like there was a million owners that came over to Yahoo to play fantasy football. It's like a Trivial Pursuit stat. So I guess I'm the baby boomer of Yahoo. I'm proud of that though. It's pretty awesome. Cool. But when I first started playing, and it's not that long ago, you know the same thing. There used to be 3 elite tight ends, and it was just like a wasteland. Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates, wasteland. A couple years ago, wasteland. Is it just me? We're in this prime time for tight ends. You said them all. Laporta, Kelsey. It depends how you're okay with them. Kelsey, McBride, Andrews, Kincaid, Evan Ingram, Pitts, Kittle, Njoku, the Ferguson, even Goatster when he's kind of down. But like you can go what 9, 10. How far are you okay going tight end right now? That's a better question.
Yeah, I'm fine. Probably down to Dallas Goedert. I don't know how many you named there. I probably find down to Dallas Goedert. I'm a little lower on Ferguson than some, but beyond that, I think 10, 11 tight ends. So I just won't pay up for him this year. I won't, because unless, Trey McBride falls to the 4th round or something, I'll probably take that because he's actually my tight end 1 this year. But beyond that, I'm not probably going to get any of them at their ADP. I'll just wait.
So what's interesting is I'm the same way as you, like these combo drafts. You just made me think of this, so I'm adding an extra one to this pod, right? So thank you for this. I've been waiting on tight end, and I hold my breath. Goddard is my choke point. I don't know about Muth. I don't know about all those guys. So I will just build other positions, and I'll just watch the tight end, or I'll let somebody else. Because in order to get Laporta right now, not Laporta, that too, but in order to get McBride right now, you got to take him as like the top 2 off the board. I'm not okay with that because I don't know how the target share is going to go. But you can get a deal at tight end, and it's never been like that before. that I could remember. I don't think last year either, but we're in a fine time for tight end. Relating that to IDP, there was defensive tackle used to be the same way. It used to be Aaron Donald, or that's all you get, or it is, right? You can go late upside on defensive tackle. And the reason that is, it was 2008 draft. We had this great boom. You ever get a chance, audience, those on Spotify that can't see my screen, whatever, look at the 2008 draft. It had like Quinnen Williams, Justin Simmons, Dexter Lawrence. You add those guys to Chris Jones. Who else did I say? Hargraves is in there. I just said Dexter Lawrence. I'm already 7 deep.
Those are some stars in there that you're mentioning.
Christian Wilkins, there's 8. So Jonathan, so you can go 9 or 10 deep depending how you think at defensive tackle. If you're in a league that sets that, like MFL, they have criteria. You got to have corner defensive tackle, that's something. But you can go super late and wait. It used to be like tight end. You got to go early or whatever. Now, right now, there's value depending on how far you want to go down. And it's a tribute to that 2008 draft when a bunch of those guys just came in the league all at once. So that was fun. Thanks for bringing that up, because that's just another draft strategy you could acquire. And another one for you, in 1 QB leagues, you can wait at that quarterback, right? 12-team league, 10-team league. Why the hell are you taking Patrick Mahomes in the first round? Why are you doing it? But you see people do it all the time.
Yeah, you see it happen all the time, and I feel bad for them. Not that Patrick Mahomes is awesome, and I always feel like when people talk about taking quarterback early that I'm crapping on it. I don't want to do. Patrick Mahomes is awesome. Josh Allen's awesome. They're great quarterbacks. But if I can get those guys in the first 2-3 rounds, or if I can get Jared Goff at pick 15th round, I'll take Jared Goff in the 15th round, and I will have many better receivers. And when the depth hits later in the year, I will feel really good about it. That's just where it is. It's a matter of finding value relative to the position. And at quarterback, if you're playing in a 1 QB league, if you take a quarterback in the first at least 7 rounds, it's probably a poor selection. Unless, if Patrick Mahomes falls to round 6, go for it or whatever. But something like that, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth it. So again, it's all about knowing where the value is and then how far you're willing to go, comfortability. We talked about scoring. We talked about rosters. Anything else you think we left off this podcast? I think we nailed it. And
just 2 guys talking ball for 15 minutes together, man. There's nothing better.
You can't go wrong with that. You know what I mean? You really can't. So, but yeah, I guess that's it. I guess we'll call it quits this podcast. Check out CK everywhere he's at. What are you working on these days?
Oh boy. So every week you can read. For fantasy baseball, I do a drop list every other week. I do some burning questions for fantasy pros, if that's what your type of thing. I do like fantasy 6-pack every other week. Just lets me kind of go wild and do what they call a spotlights, which means I basically get to write about whatever I want. And so I just kind of find something cool to write about for baseball. But for football, I am doing the rankings over on Fantasy Pros. I'm just finishing up some of I'm doing my tight ends right now. And then I am writing I've done, I think, 4 team previews for Fantasy 6-pack, and I'm going to do the QBs to target, running backs to target, wide receivers to target, tight ends to target, and then those same 4 positions, the players to avoid. And it's just a busy time of the year, man.
Heck yeah. And it's a fun time of year. I mean,
it is a fun time of the year. I'm not complaining about it.
I like being right. I like to try to guess and see what's going on. And again, for the audience, I had to pull it up because it was bothering me. The 2019 draft class is when those defensive tackles went nuts. Here's some of the names, man. Quinnen Williams, okay? Used to be a dead land. Ed Oliver, I forgot to even put him in there, right? Mm-hmm. There's 2 starters there for your leagues. Christian Wilkins, 3, right? We have DeMonte Jones. Is okay. It is what it is. He's all right. Jeffrey Simmons, 4. Dexter Lawrence, who's a PFF pressure monster.
He might be the best one of all.
Yeah, he plays that 0 technique nose guard, so it's kind of hard. Mm-hmm. A lot of people know the name. Jeffrey Tillery was a serviceable player, but that's 5 right there, and I'm still going deep on this list that you could have plugged in. So all of a sudden, like tight end, it used to be only get 2 or 3 guys. Now all of a sudden you got 8, 9, 12-team league. You can wait on the tight end, wait on the defensive tackle. Anyway, just a little trivia from one strategist to another. I enjoy you whenever you come on. Thank you so much. Hopefully you'll come on again, and hopefully we'll collab. We'll have some time to collab. Maybe do another mock draft for the season starts. You never know.
That'd be great, dude. Hit me up. Oh, also check out the In This League War Room pod. Me and Scott Bogman. You mentioned him earlier. We talk NFL draft. So if you want like previews on 2025's NFL draft, we're already talking quarterbacks and stuff.
Heck yeah. So yeah, Scott comes highly recommended In This League podcast. Is that on Spotify as well?
Yes, sir.
Heck yeah. So there you go. We're going to check that out. All right, audience. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to us. As I say most shows, hey, you keep listening. We'll keep recording these. Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.